Are you ready for another adventure? In the Dublin Mountains, in a clearing above the woods, you will find the ruins of an old lodge. This lodge is said to have been built over an ancient passage tomb. For centuries, locals have speculated and come up with the most amazing stories of what goes on within those walls. The ruins of the old lodge sit on top of Mount Pellier at about 388 meters, and it's called the Hellfire Club. Locals tell stories of the Masonic-like group of rich aristocrats who enjoyed drunken orgies, where they gambled and practiced dark arts, and, some say, even murder and human sacrifice. But how much of this is the result of the secrecy of the group and vivid imagination, and how much is fact? Who were the members of the Hellfire Club, and what did they actually do there? Most of all, did they practice devil worship? To answer those questions, we need to go back to the origins of the building. The lodge itself was built as a hunting lodge in 1725 by a fellow called William Connolly, also known as Speaker Connolly, because he was the Speaker of the Irish House of Commons from 1715 until his death in 1729. He was also an Irish Whig politician, Commissioner of Revenue, lawyer, and landowner. He was one of the wealthiest men in Ireland at the time, with a magnificent house in Dublin and an estate in Castletown, the Castletown House. He made his fortune from land transfers, following the confiscation by the Crown of lands belonging to the supporters of King James II. At that time, about 600,000 acres of Irish land were confiscated. That's nearly 5% of Ireland's total land. Connolly took advantage of his position, and he himself was the largest individual buyer. I suspect he might have chosen the site on the hill because it was a deer park and it overlooks his estate in Castletown. Connolly originally named it Mount Pellier, but over the years it has been called the Shooting Lodge, the Kennel, Connolly's Folly, the Haunted House, and most famously, the Hellfire Club. But this video is not about William. Castletown House deserves a video all on its own, and that's the place I do intend to visit in the future. But this is about his lodge and the mysteries that surround the construction. It is said that he built his lodge on top of a cairn, an ancient passage tomb, which is probably from the Neolithic era, about 4,500 to 2000 BC, and he used some of the boulders from the cairn to build his lodge. And it is even said that he used one of the standing stones of the cairn, of the passage tomb, to put on his fireplace. The roof has remained basically intact, even though the building has been abandoned for over 200 years. And in Queen Victoria's visit to Ireland in 1849, for some reason, the roof was set on fire using barrels of tar. It's sad to think that William didn't live long enough to enjoy much of his lodge. He died in 1729, a mere 4 years after it was constructed. After his death, the lodge was abandoned for about 20 years, until the Hellfire Club leased it from the Connolly family. Though it appears quite dark and foreboding today, when it was first constructed, it must have been a rather splendid-looking lodge. Records show it was plastered and whitewashed. There was a fine-cut granite staircase leading up to the door on the upper floor. That was the main entrance. The stairs are now gone, so you enter the building through the lower door, and I imagine that was the servants' entrance. At each side of the building is a room with lean-to roof. These may have been used to stable horses. A stone mounting block is still on the eastern side. This would have been used to help people mount their horses. The front of the house would have been enclosed by a low stone wall, forming a semicircle courtyard with a gate. When you enter the door in the lower level, you see what would have been the kitchen, the servants' quarters, and the stairs that lead up to the upper floors. Now, these stairs were put in by the local council. These are concrete stairs, not from the time. The upper floor has a hall on top of the stairs, as well as 2 reception rooms. These have grand fireplaces in them. The structure is surprisingly sturdy despite being abandoned for so long, left to the elements. There used to be a third floor going up from this second floor on the eastern side, which would have been a timber floored loft level where the sleeping quarters would have been. The view is stunning from both the front windows and the top of the hill in the front of the house. It overlooks Dublin City. It also overlooks the plains of Meath and Kildare. So let's talk about the Irish chapter of the Hellfire Club. It was founded in 1735 by Richard Parsons, 1st Earl of Ross, and James Worsdale. Lord Ross was probably the president of the club, and some of the other members can be seen in a painting by Worsdale. The name of the painting is the Hellfire Club, Dublin. From left to right we have Henry Barry, 4th Baron of Santry, Colonel Henry Clements, Colonel Henry Ponsonby, Colonel Richard St. George, and Simon Luttrell, 1st Earl of Charlton. It's strange that neither Richard Parsons nor James Worsdale, the painter, are included in this picture. Most of their meetings took place in Dublin city centre at Eagle Tavern on Cork Hill near Dublin Castle. Accounts of their meetings claim that they drank a mixture of whiskey and hot butter called scalthine, and that they always left a chair vacant for the devil in case he decided to join them. They eventually leased out the lodge, but it is not clear if they ever held meetings there. The author Michael Fewer suggests that the remoteness of Montpelier is why there are almost no verifiable accounts of activity there. One of the best-known stories tells of a stranger who arrived at the club on a stormy night. He was invited in, so he joined the members in a card game. One of the players dropped a card on the floor, and when he bent down to get it under the table, he noticed that the stranger had a cloven hoof. As soon as he came up from under the table, the visitor disappeared in a ball of fire. Now, this story is not exclusive to the Hellfire Club. A similar story was told about Loftus Hall in County Wexford. Note that the Loftus family owned a hunting lodge known as Dollymount, which was also on Montpelier Hill. Other tales tell of drinking sessions and orgies, as well as black masses with animal sacrifice. There are even tales of human sacrifice, which I won't get into here. The secrecy surrounding the club led to speculation that it was a satanic cult. Some accounts say that the president was named the King of Hell and dressed like Satan with horns, wings, and hoofs. Eventually, the building was damaged by fire, and this event also has its stories. One says that the club set fire to the building when William Connolly's son refused to renew the lease. Another one says that the members did it to give the building a more hellish appearance. Yet another one says that after a black mass, a footman spilled a drink on Whaley's coat. Whaley in turn poured brandy over the man and set him on fire. The fire spread around the building, killing several of the members. However, there are no records of any of these incidents. The club moved out, and activities declined after this incident. The Irish Hellfire Club was revived in 1771 by Thomas Whaley. It was then active for a further 30 years. Meetings took place at Montpelier Lodge, and according to one story, the members kidnapped, murdered, and ate a farmer's daughter. Again, no records of this. The club was again disbanded when Whaley died in 1800. Now let's talk about the trails. There are 2 trail loops around the park that start at the Hellfire Car Park. The first one is the Montpelier Loop, and it is a 4-kilometer moderate walk that loops around the hill all the way up to the top. It can take you about 1 to 1.5 hours. This trail follows the blue way markers. The second one is the Hellfire Forest Loop, which is about 5.5 kilometers and should take you about an hour and a half, maybe 2 to complete. These follow the green way markers. Both of the trails have a moderate incline, but I was able to tackle it, so you probably will as well. After about 5 minutes on the trail, starting at the car park, you see a steep gravel path on your right. This is the quick way up to the top of the hill. If you're pressed for time and you're fit, you can head up this way. You'll probably reach the top in about 10 minutes. But be careful, after rainfall, this can be very slippery. Now, even if you don't go up this incline, coming down is rather easy and quick, and it will lead you straight to the car park. You can find the maps for these trails on AllTrails. I'll put the links down in the description. Interesting fact, the last 3 people I asked told me that I was probably 10 minutes away. So I've been 10 minutes away for the last 30 minutes. The lodge has been abandoned ever since the fire and the club moved on, with several written accounts of its decline and decay in the 18th century. The Connollys sold the land to Luke White in the 1800s. The lands were then inherited by the Massey family of County Limerick, and when they went bankrupt, the lands were acquired by the state. The story of the Hellfire Club, despite being very interesting and full of mystery, is only a small chapter in the history of this site. The Dublin Mountains have been an important part of Ireland's history for thousands of years, before any recorded history. Montpelier Hill has since been a monastic site, a backdrop to the Norman invasion, a refuge for Gaelic forces against the invading English, an area for families to settle, hunting grounds, and eventually owned by Philip, the Duke of Wharton, which is when our story began. To find out more, I strongly suggest visiting the Abarta Heritage Site. I'll put a link down in the description as well. An interesting update on the Curran, the Passage Tomb. In October 2018, a further excavation of what remains of the tomb, after William built the lodge over it, discovered a huge passage grave, similar to that at New Grange, probably dating back 5,000 years, and it was just under the ruins. I hope you enjoyed this adventure, and if you did, please let me know by clicking that thumbs up button. Please also leave a comment below on what you thought of the Hellfire Club. I look forward to reading your comments. If you have a bit more time, I have another epic adventure for you. Check out this one that I have linked on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.